Midnight news coming to you live from Algiers with me, Mariam Zian, to the headlines. Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune announced his bid for a second term and highlights economic reforms. Civil Defense Agency discovers 60 bodies in Gaza City following Zionist troops' assault. Coming up next, UN issues stark warning against dismantling UNRWA amid Gaza conflict. And Algeria rejects external interference in Libya, urges focus on national reconciliation and electoral processes. Hello again. Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune announced on Thursday that he will run for a second presidential term. In his periodic media interview, President Tebboune stated that his decision to run again is in response to the wishes of numerous parties, organizations and youth.
شاكر كل الشكر. أنا شخصيا عرفت كثير من الكولونيل.
Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune underlined the importance of the recognition of the effectiveness of the economic reforms adopted by Algeria and the performance of the Algerian economy.
ما نكونش يعني مبالغ في النجاحات نتاعنا، فيه نجاح بالطبع، فيه نجاح ولكن نجاح جزئي لأن ما زال مسيرة طويلة. أي مواطن اليوم والمواطنين النزهاء راهم يقولوا أين كنا وأين أصبحنا.
حتى التقارير الدولية تشيد بأداء الاقتصاد الجزائري.
باعتراف من مؤسستين صعب ترضيتهم مثل صندوق النقد الدولي والبنك العالمي. الحمد لله الحمد لله خطينا أشواط كبيرة في جعل الجزائر في السكة نتاعها التنموية، رغبة في تلبية حاجيات المواطن أولا، ثانيا لجعل الجزائر قوة اقتصادية، وهذه الرغبة نتاعنا. احنا ما نمشيش فقط بالنظرة هكا الواسعة، نمشي بالمؤشرات. اليوم كل المؤشرات تاعنا تدل، والمؤشرات التي هي معترف بها من طرف صندوق النقد الدولي والبنك العالمي أنها مؤشرات حقيقية، والناس يعرفوا. خلي التعليق الناس اللي يعرفوا الميدان.
President Tebboune also reaffirmed his commitment to working to rise Algerian GDP to $400 billion annually by 2027 at the latest.
جاهزون لقفزة أخرى اقتصاديا خلال المرحلة
المقبلة؟ أعتقد أن كل ما قمنا به كان أساس، كان اللبنة الأولى لجعل الاقتصاد نتاعنا اقتصاد تاع دولة ناشئة، دولة ان بي ايمرجون بأتم المعنى. وانا التزمت ان شاء الله نوصلوا لها ان في سنة اخر 27 اقصاها اخر 27 يكون الدخل القومي نتاعنا ارتفع الى 400 مليار دولار سنويا، يعني يجعلنا من في نفس المستوى مثل بعض الدول الأوروبية نتاع الجنوب، وإلا ربما ما أحسن. هذه هي المقاييس اللي نمشي عليها برقابة، بيانسير برقابة نتاع صندوق النقد الدولي والبنك العالمي والبنك الإفريقي والملاحظات نتاع الاقتصاديين نتاعنا كذلك اللي عندهم رأي في الموضوع.
The head of state also pointed out in this context that Algeria's presence at the G7 summit in Bari, Italy, is evidence of recovering its international place and the recognition of its positions, especially those related to supporting just causes.
بالطبع يعني الزيارة في باري في إيطاليا أعطت دلائل الشعب الجزائري أن الجزائر استرجعت مكانتها شيء طبيعي أنها تتحاور مع الكبار، شيء طبيعي أنها تتحاور مع المحيط المتوسط نتاعها، أن كلمتها معترف بها، لأن كلمة راكزة على حقائق، على المعاش اليومي نتاعها وعلى القوة نتاعها داخليا، وعلى استمرار المنهج نتاعها اللي سطروه لنا الشهداء الأبرار على أساس الدفاع على الشعوب المستضعفة، الدفاع على الشعوب المقهورة، الدفاع على الشعوب المستعمرة. صبحت مقبولة لدى الجميع، الجميع يعرف من أشقة وأصدقاء وحتى خصوم يعرفوا باللي في بعض المواضيع الموقف تاع الجزائر معروف.
The Algerian president also stressed that Algeria's international reputation has earned it the respect of many countries, noting that there are those, on the other hand, who are trying to undermine its stability.
عندنا علاقات طيبة مع كثير من الدول، ولكن فيه كثير من الدول كذلك اللي منتمية إلى جهات أخرى وتتمنى عدم الاستقرار في الجزائر، لأن الاستقرار في الجزائر يؤدي بها إلى القوة الاقتصادية، إلى القوة العسكرية، إلى القوة الثقافية، وهذا ما يخيفهم. يعني هايبين من الطابور الخامس. أنا قلت فيه وقالوها هم صراحة في 2019 قالوا علاش الجزائريين ما يمدوش للعهد الرابعة سنتين ويديروا لقاءات ويديروا كذا ومرحلة انتقالية وكذا حتى من بعد الانتخابات.
محاولات للالتفاف على الإرادة الشعبية تقصدون؟
يصير، وكان فيه صدى، يعني صدى قوي من بعض الأطراف تاعكم، ذاك يقول يعني هذه اتجاه خطير ضد بعض السفارات. ما كنتش غلط. سفير سابق اللي يهمه الأمر النقطة هذه بالذات اللي كان عنده طابور جزء من الطابور الخامس، شوف ايش راه يكتب علينا واش راه يقول فينا. ما كنتش غلط، أنايا عايش معاك ويتمنى يعني يتمنى لك المصايب. ولكن الجزائريين أغلبهم اليوم عرفوا باللي المعركة كانت حقيقية وأن خطينا خطوات كبيرة في الانتصار إن شاء الله.
Meanwhile, Algerian citizens expressed their support for President Abdelmajid Tebboun's candidacy for a second presidential term, stressing the importance of completing the various reforms that were launched, especially those related to efforts to enhance their social rights on the one hand, and restoring Algeria's position at the international and regional levels on the other hand.
والله العظيم هذا يعني إعلان ترشح للرئيس تبون.
Honestly, the announcement of the candidacy of the president to run for a second term is a good and joyful news for all Algerians, because he is the right man in the right place. The President Tebboune, God bless him, and the Algerian nation has worked and fulfilled his promises. He is a man who fulfills his promises.
يعني إنسان c'est un homme de terrain, c'est un homme qui tient à ses promesses.
We want Algeria to become a developed country at all levels. It's not a matter of president, but it's a matter of joint efforts between the president and the people in order to reach safety.
News on occupied Palestine after a short break. Stay here. The Civil Defense Agency in Gaza said Friday that about 60 bodies had been found in an initial search of 2 Gaza City districts where Zionist troops ended an assault. The bodies were found in the Tel El Hawa and Al Sinat districts, the agency said. A Palestinian movement, Hamas, said that Zionist occupation committed heinous abuses in the Tel Al-Hawa neighborhood of Gaza City. Zionist forces withdrew from the area this morning. In Gaza, Civil Defense reports the discovery of at least 60 bodies in the aftermath. Hamas called on the UN and the international community, including the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice, to take immediate steps to end a war of extermination that the Zionist occupation is waging against Palestinians. In Rafah, the southern Gaza Strip, a Zionist drone strike in the Tell al-Sultan neighborhood resulted in the death of 2 Palestinians, as reported by local sources. Additional reports indicate that several individuals sustained injuries due to raids and intense artillery shelling by Israeli forces in the northern area of the Nusayrat camp in central Gaza. The injured were transported to Al-Awada hospital for treatment. The United Nations has issued a stark warning against efforts to dismantle the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East, emphasizing its crucial role. Hossein Barkan has more details.
UN delegates voiced their support for UNRWA on Friday, ahead of a pledging conference. The aim is to increase financial contributions to the agency. UN Chief Antonio Guterres declared that there is no alternative to UNRWA, and 118 countries backed the organization as indispensable amid Israeli efforts to dismantle it. UNRWA has suffered heavily during the Gaza conflict, with 195 staff killed.
And my appeal to everyone is this: protect UNRWA, protect UNRWA's staff, and protect UNRWA's mandate, including through funding. And let me be clear, there is no alternative to UNRWA.
UNRWA head Philip Lazzarini said the agency is staggering under the weight of relentless attack in Gaza, with nearly 190 installations damaged.
Today, it's an important day for the agency because you know that we are also undergoing fierce attacks which are politically motivated, and hence the importance that member states restate their support and their trust to the agency to whom they are conferring such an important mandate.
Riyad Mansour, Palestine's UN envoy, described the past 9 months as long, painful and harrowing.
UNRWA remains a permanent responsibility of the international community and remains a lifeline for the Palestine refugees. It also makes a significant contribution to regional stability that must be preserved. We are heartened by the shared commitments on UNRWA launched by Slovenia, Jordan, and Kuwait, and to which all members of the Security Council, present and incoming, have subscribed, alongside 118 other states, and the number is increasing from across the globe.
The UN Relief and Works Agency provides education, health, and aid to millions of Palestinians in Gaza Strip, the West Bank, Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. Since the genocidal war erupted 9 months ago by the Zionists against the Palestinians, UN officials have stressed UNRWA is the backbone of aid operations. UNRWA provides essential services to millions of Palestinians, despite calls from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to dismantle it. Most donors have resumed funding amid an internal UN investigation.
Algeria has reaffirmed its support for the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees UNRWA and for Palestinian refugees. Ammar Ben Jama, Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, emphasized during a speech at a UN conference focused on pledging to UNRWA that this meeting is taking place at a critical juncture. He highlighted the severe assaults being faced by the Palestinian people from Israeli occupation forces and pointed out that the allegations against UNRWA are intended to dismantle both the agency and the rights of
Palestinian refugees. UNRWA is irreplaceable. Unfortunately, instead of being empowered, it is under relentless attack from the Israeli occupying power. The objective is clear: dismantling UNRWA to eliminate the refugee issue. We condemn all the attempts by the occupying authority of Israel to declare UNRWA a terrorist organization. Such a plan, if implemented, would have a devastating impact on the whole UN system.
President Joe Biden said on Thursday that the war on Gaza must end now. Talking to reporters on the sidelines of the NATO summit, Biden said that his Gaza ceasefire framework had been agreed on by both Israel and Palestinian Hamas movement, as he said. He added that Israel should not occupy Gaza once its war ends.
I laid out a detailed plan in writing. It was endorsed by the UN Security Council, the G7. That framework is now agreed on by both Israel and Hamas. So I sent my team to the region to hammer out the details. These are difficult, complex issues. There's still gaps to close, but we're making progress. The trend is positive, and I'm determined to get this deal done and bring an end to this war, which should end now. The question has been from the beginning, what's the day after in Gaza? And the day after in Gaza has to be, the end of the day after has to be no occupation by Israel on the Gaza Strip, as well as the ability for us to access, get in and out as rapidly as you can, all that's needed there.
Algeria expressed its rejection of any external interference, whether political or military, in Libyan affairs. During the interactive dialogue session on the report of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, which focused on providing technical assistance and capacity building to improve the human rights situation in Libya, Algeria renewed its commitment to supporting international and regional efforts aimed at a political solution in Libya. Algeria also emphasized the importance of achieving national reconciliation in Libya with the contribution of all its people and called for attention to be paid to political and security tracks as well as the expected electoral process in Libya.
It is very important to provide support to regional initiatives with full respect of national sovereignty. The final goal is to ensure a peaceful settlement and re-established solidarity between the Libyan people. We recommend to the Office of the High Commissioner to continue its efforts related to the promotion of human rights on the basis of the requests made and the needs of the country.
In his inaugural address, South African Foreign Minister Ronald Lamola emphasized his nation's steadfast commitment to backing the just struggle of the Sahrawi people. Lamola underscored that South Africa's foreign policy is firmly rooted in solidarity with those resisting oppression and occupation. Lamola also reiterated South Africa's unwavering support for the Western Sahara's pursuit of self-determination. He also urged the United Nations to expedite the long-delayed referendum for self-determination in Western Sahara, highlighting the region as the last remaining colony in the African continent.
As our foreign policy is anchored in our history of solidarity with those struggling against oppression and occupation, we will continue to support the people of Western Sahara in their quest for self-determination. We call on the United Nations to take urgent steps towards holding the long-promised referendum on the self-determination in Western Sahara.
The head of the Sudanese Sovereignty Council, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, confirmed the army's rejection of a ceasefire or any negotiation process before the rapid support forces leave all Sudanese cities. Addressing a crowd of army volunteers in Atbara Nile River State, al-Burhan stated that the war will end with the defeat of the RSF and stressed that he will not engage in any discussions with the forces led by Mohammed Hamdan Daglo until they leave all Sudanese cities. Al-Burhan's statements come as meetings are being held in Geneva and Addis Ababa to reach dialogue sessions between the two parties to the conflict in Sudan amidst the absence of a wide spectrum of Sudanese political and civil forces.
We will win very soon, and we will withdraw this rebellion very soon. We are all very confident that this battle will end with a defeat for these rebels and with a defeat for their rebel allies. When we say ceasefire and withdrawal from Al-Jinan and Al-Fashir, we say to the enemy, withdraw from Al-Jinan and Al-Fashir, Al-Madani, and from Al-Jazeera. There will be ceasefire. If he does not withdraw, we will fight until we finish them, and we will crush him.
Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Mohammad Demirci announced that Iran will soon finalize a comprehensive cooperation agreement with Russia. He noted that the agreement is complete and ready for signing. According to the Iranian news agency IRNA, the Deputy Foreign Minister stated that this agreement has been in the works for nearly 2 years. During a recent phone call, Russian President Vladimir Putin assured Iran's newly elected president, Masoud Pezeshkian, that Moscow is prepared to sign the agreement at the upcoming BRICS summit, which will take place in Kazan, Russia this October. The Kremlin said on Friday that it had some notes on Western country statements at this week's NATO summit permitting Kiev to use arms they had supplied to strike Russian territory in the move it called a dangerous escalation. Peskov said that Moscow believed such weapons were already being used to strike Russian soil.
The issue is highly provocative. We see statements by representatives of some capitals, London and so on, who do not see any restrictions in this regard. And we see countries that are trying to keep some kind of the balance and say that they are against such easing or the terms for the use of long-range missiles.
U.S. President Joe Biden sparked escalating anger among Democrats after he presented Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as Putin and misidentified Vice President Kamala Harris as Donald Trump. This prompted a number of members of Congress to call on Biden to withdraw from the presidential race, fearing that he would not be eligible to run in the competition scheduled for next November. Nabil Khazini has more details.
It might be the time for US President Joe Biden to make the most important decision of his life.
Because I intend to win this state in November.
For better or worse, Joe Biden had to silence critiques from his own party. Biden went to NATO summit having one intention in mind: to convince everyone skeptical that he is fit for the job. However, regrettably for him, he did the opposite.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. You can beat President Putin. President Zelensky.
His opponents, along with his supporters, might forget such a slip of the tongue unless it was the only one. However, such mistakes from the US president have recently been repeated several times. At the same event, he confused his own vice president, Kamala Harris, with his rival, Donald Trump.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
How many mistakes can Joe Biden's supporters excuse to keep backing him. So far, much of the discontent has been voiced from his own party. A growing number of Democrats in Congress want Biden to exit the contest.
In order for Biden to step down, you would have to have a union of Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, quite a few senators, governors, others, and they would have to all agree that he has to go in the interest of the country and in the interest of defeating Donald Trump. They would have to go to the White House and try to convince him, and he will be tough to convince.
President Biden.
In the 2 weeks since that disastrous debate, performance put Joe Biden in a mess. He has been busy proving his competency. But will this actually work? Until we know the answer, Joe Biden's campaign is quietly testing his strength to rule the United States for another 4 years, and his candidacy still remains in peril.
And that's a wrap for tonight's program. Thank you for tuning in and have a great night.